He looks pretty sharp in that uniform. But I understand he's considering going into Marine Corps.
Oh, boy.
Hoorah!
U.S. Army. Yes.
Sit down,
All the way.
Sam.
Okay, on behalf of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 1048, I want to present you with this $250 check. You have earned it, and if you will just face the camera, at least one side of this picture will be decent. Your side, not mine.
And you are our first person to get a scholarship.
Now, what I'd like to do, I'd like to ask Jacob to read his essay that gained him this. I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Our military has always been there to ensure that our children and our grandchildren will live in the greatest nation mankind has ever known. Not only to procure greatness for our offspring, but to provide freedom, justice, and democracy for all the peoples of the world who are ready to throw off the shackles of tyranny which have enslaved them under corrupt political ideologies like communism and fascism. The United States military is the vanguard of democracy. I believe the quote, "You and I do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to not be purchased at the chains of slavery." That quote was from our 40th President, Ronald Reagan. It is manifest as to why we must fight in order to save the greatest bastion of hope humanity has ever known. The modern history of the United States military starts with World War II. During the 1930s, the United States was enduring the devastation of the economic collapse of 1929. As forces around the world prepared for war, the United States slugged along the road of economic recovery. On December 7, 1941, the people of the United States of America woke up to a treacherous attack by the Imperial Navy of Japan. The American people, sifted through dirt of the Great Depression, forged by the fires of the surprise attack, and crafted into an edge by the motivation and determination to win. Unparalleled patriotism soon swelled the ranks of the United States war machine. The fight to liberate Europe from the clutches of Nazis, from the deserts of North Africa to the frozen Siberian plains of Eastern Europe. The overwhelming civilian work front and millions of American sons and daughters in uniform drove the Nazis to defeat the war. In the Pacific, fought by the United States Navy and the Marine Corps was won inch by inch, island by island. Our brute military force would not bring the Spartan culture of Japan to its knees. It would take innovation, scientific development, and a bomb with unseen power that hadn't been seen by mankind until August 7, 1945. For the first time in human history, man now had the ability to end its own existence entirely. As the 1950s boom times came to an end, a darker period in American history began to unfold. In 1961 opens with the promise of progress, peace, and prosperity. John F. Kennedy was the youngest, most idealistic president America had ever had. There was one major problem plaguing what many attributed as Kennedy's Camelot, the newly empowered communist nation of the Soviet Union. The two superpowers waged shadow wars through puppet governments in South America, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa for the ability to influence global politics. As the two countries stockpiled arms and military equipment, the world waited on edge, waiting for the ultimatum that was inevitable to come. Unfortunately, Kennedy's youthful optimism made him many enemies. He was assassinated in Houston on November 22, 1963. Vice President Lyndon Baines Johnson was sworn in as president. A chain of events which changed America forever. Johnson, a firm supporter in the fight against global communism, sent more military advisors to the fledgling Southeast Asian country of South Vietnam. Vietnam was a country much like Korea, split into two separate countries by the universal struggle between capitalism and communism. As the North Vietnamese invaded the South, the Vietnamese puppet government began to collapse. The United States, not wanting to see another country fall to the evils of communism, sent more forces to Southeast Asia. The United States needed a galvanizing incident that would springboard America into the war. That event came with the attack on USS Maddox in the Tonkin Gulf by the communists of North Vietnam. With that, the United States president had a blank check to pursue military intervention in the Vietnamese Civil War. As 1966 started, thousands of patriotic young men were on their way to the jungles of South Vietnam, expecting an easy victory and a trip back home by 1967, which was not the case. As the soldiers of the United States roamed the jungles, they found no enemy garrisons, no enemy fortifications, no opposing armies. Just endless expanses of jungle and surprise attacks that came from no unified front, but from all around them. These were tactics the United States had never faced before. To make matters worse, the Geneva Accords created rules of engagement that restricted Americans from releasing its military might on this pitiful Red Army of peasant farmers. As the years rolled on, the United States forces racked up enormous amounts of enemy casualties to no avail. It hadn't slowed the communist war effort in the slightest. As corrupt American politicians and oblivious generals said, "There's light at the end of the tunnel," nothing would prepare the American people for 1968. The beginning of 1968 brought the beginning of the end. The Tet Offensive rattled the firm belief America was defeating the enemy. Thousands of North Vietnamese and Viet Cong raided South Vietnamese cities previously believed to be safe. The Ho Chi Minh tunnels in the fellow communist nation Laos and Cambodia allowed the passage of thousands of hostile troops, which were even capable of striking Saigon, South Vietnamese capital. The United States crushed the Red Vietnamese forces with relative ease. But what was a military victory turned out to be a political defeat, as the American people on the home front abandoned the war effort in droves. With American support eroded, the protesters soon turned against the American soldiers and the military itself. American soldiers came home to hostile civilian populaces, spitting on America's best and brightest as they walked through airports, wearing the medals for the acts of valor committed in the interest of those same citizens. It was truly the most intolerable, disgusting acts ever committed on American soil. The war dragged on for 7 more years, but the scars of courageous Vietnam veterans would never heal after what they endured at the hands of their own people. The American military today is a force for peace, as well as a force for war. As natural disasters or synthetic breakout, around the world, the United States military is there protecting the defenseless masses who need it. The American military is the greatest driving force for scientific progress in the world. Many of the luxuries we citizens ignorantly use today were created at the hands of our military, among these computers, the internet, and smartphones. Right now, the United States military is at a crossroads. We have been involved in peacekeeping operations in Afghanistan for 11 years, essentially under the same circumstances as Vietnam. As the drawdown continues, America will have to ask itself at what lengths will it go to pursue its security and defense without encroaching on the basic liberties we enjoy as Americans. Personally, I'm on contract with the United States Army under an Army ROTC scholarship. The Army will pay $250,000 for my college education if I commission into the Army as a second lieutenant. Ever since I can remember, I wanted to serve my country as a soldier. I've been in the U.S. Army ROTC for 4 years. I'm the battalion commander of my unit of 170 cadets. The feeling I get leading individuals to accomplish a common goal is one of self-satisfaction. But not only for me, but for my subordinates, who find themselves able to traverse insurmountable odds to accomplish their dreams. I plan on commissioning from Virginia Military Institute as a second lieutenant of infantry. In college, I plan to pursue early opportunities, earn U.S. Army Airborne wings, and I will enter U.S. Army Ranger School, U.S. Army Special Forces School, and I plan on a 36-year career, hopefully making the grade of general. After my military career, I hope to pursue a career in public services to the United States. Thank you.